بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. Inshallah, we will go over the meaning of the ayat that we are covering today, which are starting from ayah number 62 until ayah number 71. So in ayah number 62, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. That indeed those who believe and those who are Jews and Christians and the Sabians, whoever believes in Allah and the last day and works righteousness, they will have their reward with their Lord, and there will be no fear upon them, nor will they grieve. By the way, I just wanted to mention something as a reminder, inshallah, that part of the etiquette of handling the mushaf, part of the etiquette of handling the mushaf, and in fact, any religious book of tafsir, book of hadith, book of aqidah, book of fiqh, part of the etiquette is that when we turn the page, that we don't turn the page just like it's any other book. And one of the commonly made mistakes is that people will lick their finger and then turn the page. Don't do that. Don't lick your finger with saliva and then turn the page. It's not proper adab with the mushaf. When you turn the page, if it's not coming, just keep trying. It'll come. If it's not separating, just give it a few seconds. It'll separate. But don't do what is habitual, which is that we lick the finger to turn the page. That's not proper adab with the mushaf. So just try to be aware of that. Try to be vigilant about that, inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is talking about who are the people that will be saved on the Day of Judgment. And there's a context behind this ayah. There's a context behind this ayah. Salman al-Farisi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he asked him about the people that he had spent time with before he accepted Islam. Because if you know the story of Salman al-Farisi, you know that before he came to the Prophet ﷺ, he had spent time with people of other faiths, people of the book. If you don't know his story, I encourage you to read the story of Salman al-Farisi and his conversion. It's an amazing story. But here, I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but basically, he spent time with people of the book before he accepted Islam. And so he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked him about those people that he had spent time with that had died before they met the Prophet ﷺ, and they used to be people of worship, people of piety, people. So he mentioned to him, their practices and so on. And he asked the Prophet ﷺ that these were people that were expecting you to come. I know, I spent time with them. They told me that a Prophet is coming, and that's how Salman knew when he met the Prophet ﷺ that this is a Prophet, and he accepted Islam. They said, those people, they told me that, أَنَّكَ سَتُبْعَثُ نَبِيًّا, that you will come as a Prophet. So what is going to happen to these people in the hereafter? So the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked this question by Salman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah as a response to that kind of question. That إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. That those who believe, and the Jews, and the Christians, and the Sabians, whoever believes in Allah in the last day and works righteousness, then essentially they will be saved. So this is talking about Jews of the past, and Christians of the past, and Sabians of the past, before the coming of the Prophet ﷺ. We have to understand the ayat of the Quran in light of other ayat of the Quran. Because other parts of the Quran tell us that after the coming of the Prophet ﷺ, people will not be saved unless they affirm the prophethood of Rasulullah ﷺ. وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. As Allah says in Surah Ali Imran, that whoever seeks other than Islam to be their way of life, to be their religion, it will never be accepted from them. So after the Sharia of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came down, and people were there or they heard about it, then they have no choice but to accept that. But before that, people before that, Allah Azza wa Jalla is talking about them here, because that's the context in which the ayah is revealed. So it's very important that we understand the ayat of the Quran in their proper context. And the context means that we understand them in light of other ayat of the Quran, and also in light of the sababul nuzul, in light of the circumstances in which they were revealed. Because if you look at the ayah at its face value, then you may misunderstand it, as many people unfortunately have. Because they look at this ayah and they say, look, all of these people are going to Jannah. The Jews, the Christians, the Sabians, and the Muslims, we're all going to Jannah. All of these are different paths that lead to the same goal, as long as we believe in God and believe in the hereafter. So the Christians that live with us in this country, those who say that they are Christian, they believe in God. They believe in God. Of course, they have their own notion of God. But they say they believe in God, and they believe in the afterlife. And many of them are very righteous people. They give a lot of charity. They pray. They fast. They do a lot of khair in the world. Okay? But does that mean that they're going to go to Jannah even if they reject Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? No. It's very clear from the Quran that after the coming of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's no choice but to believe in him and his message. So this is talking about prior to the coming of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. They will have their reward with their Lord. وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. They will neither fear nor shall they grieve. And the same thing applies actually to the Jews. That the Jews, they had no choice but to believe in the prophethood of Isa alayhi salam after he came. So they could not reject Isa alayhi salam and still achieve salvation. No, after Isa alayhi salam came, those who rejected Isa alayhi salam, Allah Azza wa Jal will not save them because they rejected one of the prophets of God. Okay? لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. We do not distinguish between any of the messengers of Allah. Now, who are the Sabians of Sabi'een? Sabi'een are mentioned in various places in the Quran. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure who the Sabi'een are, because there are so many aqwal, so many different opinions about who the Sabi'een are. So if there's a particular opinion that you're familiar with, I'm probably also familiar with it, but there are many opinions, okay, among the Mufassirun. But basically, there's a few things that are very clear. One is that there was a group of people at the time of the Prophet ﷺ that was different from the Jews, the Christians on the one hand, and the idol worshippers on the other hand. And that these people believed in God. They believed even in La ilaha illallah. Okay? And that's why when the Prophet ﷺ started to preach his message and people started to convert to Islam, the mushrikun of Mecca would say that these people have become Sabi'een. Saba'a fulan, they would say, Saba'a fulan. Oh, this person has joined one of those Sabi'een, because of the similarity between Islam and the Muslims and the Sabi'een. Because the Prophet ﷺ was preaching La ilaha illallah. It also seems that the Sabi'een, they were people who had a qibla, and they used to direct themselves to a qibla when they performed worship. And according to many of the Mufassirin, their qibla was towards Yemen. Okay? So Allah knows best exactly the details of their religion. Some of the Mufassirun said they also used to worship the angels. So there were problems in their faith, but there was a distinguished group of people, the Sabi'een, different from the Jews and the Christians, and they were not idol worshippers. They were not wasaniyun. Allahu Alam if these people are still existing today. There is a group of people in Iraq that are called the Sabians. Okay, and there is an opinion of the Mufassirun that they are descendants of that same group of Sabians. But Allah knows best if that is the case or not. Then Allah says, وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ وَرَفَعْنَا فَوْقَكُمُ الطُّورَ خُذُوا مَا آتَيْنَاكُمْ بِقُوَّةٍ وَاذْكُرُوا مَا فِيهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. And remember when we took your covenant. This is now addressing the Bani Israel again. Remember when we took your covenant and we raised over you a Tur, the mountain. خُذُوا مَا آتَيْنَاكُمْ بِقُوَّةٍ. Take what we have given you with strength. وَاذْكُرُوا مَا فِيهِ. And remember what is in it, and make mention of what is in it. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that you may attain taqwa. So, at the time of Bani Israel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, among the many miracles that He showed them was this, that He raised the mountain above them. It loomed over their heads. And that was a sign for them that this is serious, that this is the truth. And then Allah Azza wa Jal demanded that they hold on to the Torah, hold on to the revelation that was given to Musa alayhi salam with biquwwa, with strength, meaning that they take it seriously. They take it seriously. وَاذْكُرُوا مَا فِيهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. And then Allah says, ثُمَّ تَوَلَّيْتُم مِّن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ. And then you turned away after that. So despite seeing the miracle and despite the strong command from Allah Azza wa Jal, after some time they turned away. فَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ لَكُنْتُم مِّنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. They turned away, meaning that they, um, um, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بِنَقْضِهِمْ مِيثَاقَهُمْ, that they broke their covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They disobeyed some of the things that Allah Azza wa Jal had ordered them to do in the book, in the Torah. They changed some of the rulings. They tampered with the book of Allah. فَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ لَكُنْتُم مِّنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Were it not for the grace of Allah upon you and His mercy, you would have been among the losers. So were it not for the fact that Allah accepted your repentance, were it not for the fact that He continued to send you messengers and prophets after messengers and prophets, this is the fadl and the rahmah of Allah Azza wa Jal. If it weren't for that, then you would have been from among the losers. وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمُ الَّذِينَ اعْتَدَوْا مِنْكُمْ فِي السَّبْتِ فَقُلْنَا لَهُمْ كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ. And you know the people who transgressed from you regarding the Sabbath. And we said to them, be apes, khasi'in meaning humiliated. فَجَعَلْنَاهَا نَكَالًا لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهَا وَمَا خَلْفَهَا وَمَوْعِظَةً لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And so we made them an ibra. Nakal is ibra, like a lesson. لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهَا وَمَا خَلْفَهَا, for what was before them and what was behind them, i.e., for all the people, for the people that were in that town, for the people that were in other towns, in the surrounding towns. وَمَوْعِظَةً لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And we made them a warning, a source of warning for the people of taqwa. So you know the story. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions the story of these people in Surah Al-A'raf. That there was a group of Jews, it seems that they were at the time of Dawood alayhi salam, that there was a group of Jews that some of the Mufassirun said that this was done as a punishment to them, this trial that they were put through, because Allah Azza wa Jal had told them to venerate Friday and they insisted they wanted to venerate Saturday. And the Christians wanted to venerate Sunday, even though they were told to venerate Friday. But they chose Saturday and Sunday. So the Jews, they chose Saturday because that was the day that they believed that Allah rested after the creation of the heaven and the earth. So as a punishment for them, Allah sent them this problem, that they were told not to, if that was the case, that they were told not to fish on Saturdays, because their special day, they're not supposed to fish on Saturday. And then what would happen was the fish would come on Saturday in large amounts, and they wouldn't be there on Sunday, and they wouldn't be there on Friday. So what happened was, it started with one person. One person, he decided to, put his net. Basically, there's different accounts. Some of them say that he made a little tributary from the river, a little tributary that goes into a little pond, and he would open the passage on Saturday, so the fish would start coming into that little pond. And then on the next day, Sunday, he would close that. Or on Saturday, he would then, towards the end of the day, he would close that passage, and then on Sunday, he would take out the fish. Okay. Or some of them say he would put out the net on Saturday, but then take out the net on Sunday. So what happened was, people of the town, they were not able to get fish. But then some people realized that this one person has fish. So they asked him, how do you have fish? And he told them what he was doing. So some people liked the idea and they started to follow him. And from 1 became 2, from 2 became 4, 4 to 6. And so the number of people that started doing this trick started to grow. So now when the group became larger, the ulama of that town, they started to warn the people. And they said, don't do this. You're fishing on Saturday. We're not supposed to fish on Saturday. And so they would say, well, we're not fishing on Saturday. We're fishing on Sunday. So they said that, no, you are playing games with Allah Azza wa Jal, don't do that. But they refused to listen, and these people, they separated themselves, meaning that they did not do what they were doing. They separated themselves. Some of them said they even raised a wall between them and these people, so they divided the town. Okay, and then one day they found that these people had been turned into apes. They had been turned into apes. And Abdullah ibn Abbas says that they only lived for a few days, and then they died. They didn't procreate. They didn't multiply. They didn't leave behind a progeny. Okay, so it's not correct when some people say, oh, all these fossils that we find of apes, they are these apes. No, that's different. These people, they didn't live for a long time. They lived for a few days, and then they died. Okay, so now why were they turned into apes? Of course, as a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But al-jaza'u min jins al-amal, as the ulama say, that Allah rewards and punishes based on the type of actions that we do. So because these people, they were saying that they are not fishing on Saturday, even though they were. But they said that, no, we are not fishing on Saturday. Allah Azza wa Jal turned them into apes that look like humans, even though they're not humans. They look like humans, but they are not humans. Okay? The same way in which they fished on Saturdays, even though it looked like they weren't. But the reality was that they were. But they did it in a way that it doesn't look like that they are. So Allah Azza wa Jal transformed them so that they don't look like humans anymore. Even though, or they look like humans, but they're not. They were turned into apes. So, فَجَعَلْنَاهَا نَكَالًا لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهَا وَمَا خَلْفَهَا وَمَوْعِظَةً لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So this was done as a lesson, as a warning for people of other towns, for people of that town, and for the believers until the end of time. There is another opinion about all of this, and that's the opinion of Mujahid. Mujahid is a famous Tabi'i scholar, and his opinion was that this didn't actually happen literally. That these people were not physically turned into apes, that their hearts were transformed. Their hearts were transformed into the hearts of apes. And the same thing about the khanazir, that in other places Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how some of them were turned into swine. He said that it didn't happen literally, physically, that he says that مُسِخَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَلَمْ يُمْسَخُوا قِرَدَةً وَإِنَّمَا هُوَ مَثَلٌ ضَرَبَهُ اللَّهُ كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. But this is just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they are like donkeys carrying books. Okay? So this is a masal, this is an analogy that Allah Azza wa Jalla has struck. But the majority of the scholars have disagreed with Mujahid. Okay? But Mujahid did have this opinion. There's a sound chain of narration going back to him. So this shows how sometimes the Mufassirun, they have disagreements with each other. But the majority have disagreed with Mujahid, and they said that this happened physically. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تَذْبَحُوا بَقَرَةً قَالُوا أَتَتَّخِذُنَا هُزُوًا قَالَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ أَنْ أَكُونَ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. This is the beginning of the story where Musa alayhi salam commanded the Bani Israel to slaughter a cow. The reason why he commanded them to slaughter a cow was because a man from Bani Israel had committed murder. And they started to dispute about who the murderer was. When they found the dead body of the person, they started to wonder who the murderer was. So they brought the case to Musa alayhi salam. And Musa alayhi salam turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him that they can discover who the killer is if they follow the orders of Allah Azza wa Jal. And essentially it was going to be revealed to them miraculously who the killer was. So they were told to kill a cow and then take a piece of the cow and strike the dead body with that piece, and the dead man was brought back to life. And then after he came back to life miraculously, he pointed to the killer and he said, "This is the one who killed me," and he died again. Okay? So this whole story is mentioned in this passage. But what happened was, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa alayhi salam to tell the Bani Israel to slaughter a cow, Musa alayhi salam said to them, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تَذْبَحُوا بَقَرَةً. Indeed, Allah is commanding you to slaughter a cow. A cow. So the first response that came from them was, أَتَتَّخِذُنَا هُزُوًا. Are you making fun of us? Are you mocking us? Are you telling us that by slaughtering a cow we're going to find out who the killer is? What does this have to do with that? So are you mocking us? Are you making a mockery of us? And so Musa alayhi salam responds and he says, أعوذ بالله أن أكون من الجاهلين. I seek Allah's refuge that I be from the jahilin, from the ignorant people. Which teaches us a very important lesson, that when we ridicule others and mock others, we're acting like jahilin. To ridicule people, to mock people, to make fun of people is an act of jahala, is an act of ignorance, okay, that we should avoid. So this is the story from which the surah takes its name, Surah Al-Baqarah. And this is why we have Baqarah Eid. It's not Baqarah Eid, by the way. Not Baqarah Eid, it's Baqarah Eid. Baqar from Baqarah. Okay. Even though it's better to slaughter a Baqarah than a Baqarah. It's better to slaughter a ram than a cow. Unless what I mean is that it's better to slaughter a ram rather than having a share of the cow. Because Ibrahim alayhi salam, his sacrifice was sacrifice of a ram. But the point is that this is the name of the surah, takes its name from here. So then they said, قَالُوا ادْعُ لَنَا رَبَّكَ يُبَيِّن لَنَا مَا هِيَ. They started to ask questions. They said, ask your Lord to tell us what kind of cow He wants us to slaughter. قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا فارض ولا بكر عوان بين ذلك فافعلوا ما تؤمرون. Musa alayhi salam tells them that he is telling you that it's a cow that's not neither too old nor too young. Not neither too old nor too young. فافعلوا ما تؤمرون. So do what you've been commanded to do. So now the choices become narrow, right? Because it can't be too old and it can't be too young. So the choices become narrow. The more questions they ask, the more narrow the choices become, the more difficult it becomes. The more we question Allah Azza wa Jal, the more narrow things become. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to discourage the companions from asking him too many questions. Okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about that in the Quran. لا تسألوا عن أشياء إذا إن تبد لكم تسؤكم عفى الله عنها. Don't ask about things that if they were revealed to you, it will make things difficult for you. Okay? So, as a result, the companions used to be very hesitant in asking questions to the Prophet ﷺ, and they would get happy when a Bedouin would come and ask questions. Because the Bedouins didn't know proper adab, and they would ask whatever came to their mind. قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما لونها قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة صفراء فاقع لونها تسر الناظرين. They said, ask your Lord to tell us what the color of this cow is. What color is it? So he said that Allah says that it is a yellow cow. فاقع لونها تسر الناظرين. It has a beautiful, striking appearance that when you see it, it pleases you. Okay? So then they said, قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي إن البقرة تشابه علينا وإنا إن شاء الله لمهتدون. They said, ask your Lord to explain further what kind of cow this is, because they all look the same to us. وإنا إن شاء الله لمهتدون. And inshallah we will be guided. Inshallah will be guided. This is one thing that they said right. Inshallah. And the Prophet ﷺ said that if they didn't say inshallah, they wouldn't be guided as to which cow they should they should slaughter. قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا ذلول تثير الأرض ولا تسقي الحرث مسلمة لا شية فيها قالوا الآن جئت بالحق فذبحوها وما كادوا يفعلون. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them that it is a cow that doesn't do work. Okay? That does not till the soil, that does not work. It's not at that stage in its life yet where it is used to do work. And it is a cow that has no defects, it doesn't have any flaws. So they finally found this cow, and there was this one cow, only one cow, that fit all of this description. And they found it with a person. Allah knows if it was a man or a woman, there's different narrations. They found it with this person, and this person realized that their cow is in high demand now. So they said, I'm going to charge you for this cow. And they charged them big money. So they went back to Musa alayhi salam. They said, this person is charging a lot of money. Can we find a different cow? He said, no, you asked for it. Now Allah has told you this is the cow. So they had to pay a large amount of money to get this cow. فَذَبَحُوهَا وَمَا كَادُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. So they slaughtered it, but they almost didn't. They almost didn't because of the price of the cow. So inshallah we'll stop here and we'll continue next time. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Any quick questions inshallah? Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Yes. The other episode, yes, when he went to receive the Torah, and when he went to receive the Torah on the mountain, that's when he left his people under the charge of his brother Harun alayhi salam. That's when they started to worship the golden cow. And then when Musa alayhi salam came back to them, he found that they were worshiping the cow. Yeah. This happened later. Yes, this happened later. Allahu a'lam. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.